He is the real-life inspiration for the Lone Ranger. The Iron Star, the untold legend of Bass Reeves. The Hook. In the blood-soaked soil of the American Old West, one man stood as a wall between civilization and chaos. He carried a Winchester rifle, a silver star, and a heavy secret. He was a former slave who had mastered the languages of the tribes and the tactics of the lawless. Out of 3,000 arrests, he never drew first, but he never missed. This is not just a Western. It is the true story of the most dangerous man the American frontier ever produced. Chapter 1. The Dust and the Deed. The Oklahoma Territory in 1875 was not a place for the faint of heart. It was Indian Territory, a lawless expanse where the sun felt like a judgment and the wind carried the scent of dry sage and impending violence. Bass Reeves sat atop his massive gray stallion, a beast as stoic as the man himself. Standing 6'2", Bass loomed over most men, his shoulders broad enough to carry the weight of the badge pinned to his vest. His skin was the color of deep mahogany, weathered by decades of southern sun and frontier grit. "You hear that, Jack?" Bass whispered to his horse. The horse flicked an ear. A mile ahead, tucked into a ravine known as the Devil's Throat, 3 men were butchering a stolen steer. They were the Miller brothers, cold-blooded killers who'd had left a trail of widows from Fort Smith to the Texas border. Bass didn't reach for his twin .45 Colt peacemakers, not yet. He reached for a tattered Bible in his saddlebag. He couldn't read a word of it, but he had memorized every verse his wife Nellie had read to him. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," he muttered, his voice a low rumble. To Bass, the law wasn't just a set of rules from Judge Isaac Parker. It was a divine mandate. The escape from bondage. To understand the man under the wide-brimmed hat, one must look back to the hell of the Civil War. Bass had been born into slavery in Arkansas, owned by a man named George Reeves. When the war broke out, George took Bass to the front lines as a body servant. It was during a heated card game in a Confederate camp that the world changed. A dispute arose, some say over a hand of poker, others over the very concept of dignity. Bass, a man who refused to be broken, struck his master and fled into the night. He didn't run north, he ran west, into the heart of the Creek and Seminole Nations. For years, Bass lived among the indigenous people. He learned to track a mountain lion across bare rock. He learned the nuances of the Muskogee language. He became a ghost. He learned that the civilized world was often more savage than the wilderness. But when the Emancipation Proclamation reached the dusty plains, Bass emerged not as a fugitive, but as a free man with a unique set of skills. The meeting at Fort Smith. Back in the present, Bass adjusted his hat. He remembered the day Judge Isaac Parker, the hanging judge, had summoned him. "Reeves," Parker said, his eyes like flint, "I need men who know the territory. I need men who can't be bought, can't be scared, and can't be killed. They tell me you're the best tracker in the South. I'm making you a deputy U.S. Marshal." Bass looked at the silver star. He knew that as a black man in a post-war America, wearing that star made him a target for both the outlaws he hunted and the very people he protected. "I'll take the job," Bass replied, "but I'd do it my way." The ambush. Bass dismounted, leaving Jack hidden behind a sandstone outcrop. He didn't approach like a lawman. He took off his coat, ruffled his hair, and began to limp. He looked like a weary, broken-down drifter. As he stumbled into the Miller brothers' camp, the youngest, Silas, leveled a shotgun at his chest. "State your business, old man, or die where you stand," Silas spat. Bass put on a toothy, desperate grin. "Just a traveler, sirs. My horse died 3 miles back. I got a bag of gold coins I saved from the mines, but I'm too weak to carry it much further. I'll give half to anyone who helps me find the road." The greed in their eyes was instantaneous. The Miller brothers lowered their guard. It was the last mistake they would ever make. In a blur of motion that seemed to defy physics, the helpless drifter vanished. Bass kicked the shotgun from Silas's hand and in one fluid motion drew both Colts. The hammers clicked back, a sound that in the silence of the canyon sounded like a death knell. "U.S. Marshal," Bass's voice was now cold as a winter creek. "You're all under arrest. Drop the steel or meet your maker." The oldest Miller brother reached for his waist. Bass didn't kill him. He shot the thumb off the man's hand with surgical precision. "I said, drop it," Bass commanded. 10 minutes later, the Miller brothers were chained together. Bass began the long trek back to Fort Smith. He didn't use a wagon. He made them walk. Chapter 2: The Devil's Den and the Beggar's Gold. The road back to Fort Smith was a 3-day trek through country that wanted to swallow men whole. Bass Reeves sat high on his gray stallion, his eyes never settling, scanning the horizon for the glint of a rifle barrel or a dust cloud that signaled trouble. Behind him, the Miller brothers shuffled in iron shackles, their boots kicking up the red Oklahoma dust. "You're a dead man, Reeves," Silas Miller hissed, his face caked in sweat and spite. "My kin in the Panhandle, they know your name. They know that star. You won't make it to the Arkansas line." Bass didn't look back. He merely adjusted the brim of his hat. "Your kin are welcome to try, but the law is a patient hunter, Silas. It's got more time than you've got breath." The judge's ultimatum. Upon arriving at Fort Smith, Bass delivered the brothers to the basement jail, a hellish place known as the Hell on the Border. He walked upstairs to the chambers of Judge Isaac Parker. The room smelled of old parchment, tobacco, and the heavy scent of justice. Parker didn't look up from his ledger. 32 outlaws in 2 months, Bass. You're making the other deputies look lazy." "I just go where the trail leads, Judge," Bass replied, leaning against the doorframe. Parker looked up, his eyes weary. "The trail needs to lead you to the Panhandle. There's a man named Jim Webb. He's running a ranch that's nothing but a fortress for horse thieves and whiskey runners. He's killed 3 lawmen. He's fast, he's rich, and he's got the local sheriff in his pocket." Bass went silent. Webb was a name whispered in saloons like a curse. He wasn't just a bandit. He was a kingpin of the prairie. "I need him alive, Bass. We need to know who's buying those stolen horses in St. Louis. But if he pulls, well, you know what to do." The art of disguise. Bass knew that a black man with a badge riding onto Webb's ranch was a suicide mission. He needed to be someone else. In a small room behind the Marshals' office, Bass transformed. He removed his crisp white shirt and vest. He put on a pair of tattered, mud-stained pants. He took an old pair of boots and cut holes in the toes so his feet peeked through. Then he found a floppy, dirt-caked hat and used a knife to fray the edges. Finally, he took a heavy cane and practiced a hitch in his step. To any observer, Bass Reeves had vanished. In his place stood an old, broken-down tramp looking for work or a scrap of bread. He didn't carry his holster openly. He hid his twin .45s in a canvas sack filled with dirty laundry, slung over his shoulder. The Panhandle Encounter. The journey to the Webb Ranch took 6 days. The heat was a physical weight, pressing down on the scorched earth. When Bass finally reached the gates of the ranch, he looked like a man on the verge of collapse. 2 guards on horseback met him at the fence. "Get moving, beggar. We don't want your kind here." Bass slumped his shoulders.
his voice cracking. "Please, sirs, just a bit of water. I can fix fences, I can shoe horses. I've walked from Wichita, and I ain't had a meal in 3 suns." One of the guards laughed, but the other, seeing the old man's withered state, felt a flicker of pity, or perhaps just wanted to mock the gentleman. "Let him in. Webb needs someone to clean the stables. The last boy ran off." Bass was led to the main house. Jim Webb sat on the porch, cleaning a gold-plated revolver. He was a man of fine clothes and foul temper. He looked at Bass with pure disgust. "Can you work, old man?" he asked, not looking up. "Yes, master," Bass said, using the submissive tone he had learned in his youth, a tone that tasted like bile in his mouth, but served as his greatest shield.